Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. We got a lot of details and numbers, and I love numbers because the numbers tend to give the impression that the person who gives you the number has an idea of what exactly happens, you know. So if I tell you that there were 3,429 people in one location, I must know that was the exact number. If I tell you there were about 3,000, that means I'm kind of guessing, correct? All right, I got exact numbers. And the numbers of how many tanks, airplanes, and everything, the helicopters, the Russians are preparing for the new invasion. And Russia already is pouring in the eastern Ukraine tons of military personnel, and they're ready to start invasion. Now, when the invasion is going to start? Sometime in our lifetime? No, I'm just kidding. They are not giving us the exact date, but they give us like a time frame. It's going to be in the next 10 days or next 3 days, and in this spring, this year, this decade, this century. All right, let's go and see what's going on here with these results. So this article comes from Ukrainska Pravda, and it reads, Russia prepares thousands of tanks and armored vehicles and hundreds of fighter jets for offensive. I mean, the obvious question is, how in the hell they still got all those things? I mean, I've been informed by the defense minister or intelligence defense minister, what's his name, Ben Wallace, that the Russians are done. The Russians have no more missiles, have no more weapons. They're basically done. And again, from them, I was also informed through a little beautiful article a while ago that the Russians cannot actually open a new front because of lack of, manpower and ammunition and all that. So I don't know. I guess something is going on here. Now, this is from Ukrainska Pravda, and I will read this article. But in the meantime, I will give you a little bit of information from the Telegraph. And it says, Russia pouring troops into eastern Ukraine ahead of new offensive. All right, this is from today. I can't give you anything else because they want me to give them some money for this. Something that I receive actually from information I get from this guy better, because I read this article in a different area, different place, but it's less informative than the Ukrainian. So why should I pay for those guys when I have these guys with more details now? Because they're gonna both tell me the same story. Now, let's read this little article coming from February 8, 2023. Russian occupiers have prepared, now brace yourself, my friends, because this is going to be a lot of weapons here. 1,800 tanks, 3,950 armored vehicles, 2,700 artillery systems, 810 multiple rocket launch systems, 400 fighter jets, and 300 helicopters ready for a new offensive operation in Ukraine. Now, this could sound like this. Hey, guys, you got to give us weapons. Look, see how many these guys still have? So, hurry up. Well, but we'll see. They will receive, they don't receive, they just push one another, hey, should we send weapons? Should we not send airplanes? Should we be sending long-range missile systems? They say yes, no. All right. The source is Foreign Policy, citing a Ukrainian military official speaking on condition of anonymity. We love that. And I'm quoting, Russia has also begun arming up and digging in for a coming offensive. The Ukrainian military estimates that Russia already has 1,800 tanks, 3,950 armored vehicles, 2,700 artillery systems, 810 Soviet-era multiple rocket launch systems such as Grad and Smerch, 400 fighter jets, and 300 helicopters ready for a new wave of attacks. Details. Ukrainian officials estimate that Russian forces inside the country have surpassed the 300,000 mark. They also said that the Russians are going to mobilize about 500,000 more people on top of the 300,000 that they mobilized in October, November, December, January and so on, because they keep doing that allegedly. Estimates of Russia's presence in Ukraine are significantly higher than the invading force that Russian President Vladimir Putin used to invade the country last February. Oh, now he's the president, and he's a dictator, and he's a war criminal, all of the above. What's going on? And this time they are highly concentrated in eastern Ukraine. All right, where is eastern Ukraine? Pa-pam. So we have here a little map provided by the Institute of Study of War, which is a Washington D.C. think tank. It's very skewed. That's my assessment of their information. But anyway, basically, if you look here, it's Ukraine, eastern Ukraine. This is where they are going to do the dirty deeds, right? AC/DC. So this is Bakhmut, and this is the area where the hottest war occurs, right here, which is with in Luhansk and Donetsk. Supposedly, and according to the Ukrainians, the Russians have 5 fronts open here in Bakhmut area, in the Donetsk, and 3 more in Luhansk. All right, well, I haven't read anything about this piece of information yesterday or today. So I don't know what's going on over there. It's a kind of like a blackout about what's going on the front. Well, anyway, let's go back to this beautiful article here. Now, the Pentagon has described the Russian troops that have already been rushed to the battlefield to plug up defensive holes as, and I'm quoting, ill-equipped, ill-trained, rushed. According to a senior U.S. military official, the Pentagon believes that the Kremlin has begun sending in tens of thousands of troops to replace losses suffered from ongoing battles in the city of Bakhmut and Soledar, but Kiev believes that Putin could go even further, drafting more new troops around the 24 February anniversary of the full-scale invasion. And I'm quoting, "It's much bigger than what took place in the first wave," the Ukrainian military official said. And I'm quoting again, "They are not paying attention to any casualties and losses." I must add that the Russian military, because right now there are Russian troops, which is Russian military plus the auxiliaries, Kadyrovites, mercenaries, volunteers, the people that fight from Donetsk, from Luhansk. And I have to add that Russia has I would say, a minimum potential of gathering about or mobilize at least 30 million people. 30 million people if they want. And how do you calculate that? It's very simple. Get the 145 about population of Russia. Okay, get about, I don't know, let's say between 30 and 40% out as being minors, which is not that much, but I give you that, minors and the people over 60, let's put it, and you remain to at least I don't know, 30% of that 145 million. So then you get to at least 30 million. It's just the averages. If it's 20 million, if it's 10 million, if it's 30 million, it doesn't really matter in this situation. It's still too much for the other side to handle. So when the Russians started this offensive, this attack, this invasion, special military operation, however you want to call it, they started with what, 150,000. Remember, they put around the borders of Ukraine. There were a lot of articles from the West saying, "Hey, you pull back your military from the borders of Ukraine." Psst. All right, like you can't do it on your territory, but the other guys can have troops next to your borders. Yeah, okay. And they were talking about between 150,000 to 200,000. Those were the Russians with their, I don't know, Kadyrovites and how do you call those guys, Wagner Group and who knows what. And inside of Ukraine, there were the separatists that had their own troops. So, yeah, everything got to what, about, let's say, 350,000 at the most. And the Ukrainians had the general mobilization, about 1 million, for some 800,000, 900,000, a million, 1.2 million, something like this. And they're still mobilizing right now whoever wants to work, get from the, it's that called offensive forces, something like this, like stormtroopers. Anyway, I think it's scraping from the bottom of the barrel, but if they want to fight for the motherland and for the interest of other, then yeah, why do it? It's your life after all, not mine. But it seems like I can't control what these wizards are doing with my life either. So, in the next 10 days, we expect a new huge invasion, he said. This is Alexei Reznikov, defense minister, still said that he expects a surge in Russian operations around the upcoming anniversary of the invasion of February 24th. And he also said, with his great intelligence, that the Russians are very much thinking in a symbolistic manner, and they want to celebrate the 24th of February, the invasion, with some victories. Okay, well, if that would have been the case, they would have acted differently during this war. If we talk about symbolism, there's many things to be symbolistic about, and they could have been. But anyway, Reznikov obviously generalizes, and he can do that. That's his right, but it's my right to assess his way of looking at the issue or analyzing the issue. And I know that in the United States of America, it's kind of unacceptable to generalize a group of people as thinking in a certain way. You know what I mean? But he just did that, but not in this article. Analysts and Ukrainian officials expect the brewing offensive to focus on eastern Ukraine, what was in the western Ukraine. The US and Western officials now estimate that about 200,000 Russian troops have been killed or wounded in battle. Yeah, but you can't say anything about the other side. But I have some estimates, and everybody jumped on those guys. No, you can't say that. So anyway, these guys are trying to large scale offensive within the next 10 days, and this was reported, I think, 2 days ago. So they got what, about 8 more? Anyway, even if they have one today, they will still link it to the 24th of February. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter if Putin has a, I don't know, hard-on or something, and he decides to invade today or tomorrow. It's not really. The important fact is, if it's a fact, these guys are bringing more troops. What do you have? And when they're going to bring more troops, according to these guys, airplanes, helicopters, tanks, blah, 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 what are they going to do about it? And then next thing, where are they going to start the biggest offensive since counteroffensive on Stalingrad? And then we go from there. I don't really care if Putin, scratched his balls last night. I don't really care about that. Or Reznikov thinks that those guys are doing some voodoo shit in Moscow and they decide to attack because, oh my God, so much symbolism. Yes, and the bird flies. That means the wind blows good and the gods are with us. Da-da-da-da. Some people still think the way some of us, still think nowadays the way we used to think, I don't know, about 2,500 years ago, when the Greeks started asking questions about, hey, wait a second, Zeus, and I don't think that's, But I know some people are still at the same level. That's why when I say, well, we're civilized, yeah, we follow rules in a different way, but at the essence, it seems like we are the same. Oh, it's a black cat crossing. Oh, let me turn around 5 times. Jesus Christ. So much, evolution. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.